I was also invited as a Holocaust survivor. I was asked to speak first, which I did. I concentrated on simply filling in stories of what it was like to be involved in the Holocaust and not in the camps necessarily, because there were some other horrors not immediately obvious. It's mostly about things that happened to my family and my school friend, etc. Some pretty horrendous stories, very painful ones for those who lived through it. And I try to make a little bit of parallel with those pains and experiences and similar ones in Gaza. And for example, the pain of divided families, the pain of having to make life and death decisions about the next move without reliable information, virtually gambling with the life of a family. There was really concentrated destruction in that part of Budapest. I think disproportionately so, because that's where the climax of the fighting was. And when we came out at the end of it, we were surrounded by heaps of rubble and destruction. And that really rhymed with what I've seen of Gaza very much, except ours, such concentrated destruction was in a small part of Budapest. There's one difference still, that whereas in Gaza, the destruction is a deliberate act. It's a complete obliteration by decision. Our destruction was a byproduct of genuine armies fighting. So there was less of a visible expression of hatred than what it is in Gaza. It was pretty horrifying, and the one that we protested in the midday Jewish commemoration is the protest against the misuse of the Holocaust experience. It is pretended that what has been going on ever since the fake anti-Semitism business started up within the Labour Party and then now extended to the whole country pretty much, is this concept or idea of saving Jews, solidarity with the IDF attack on Gaza, which is a total misconception and misuse and desecration of the memory of the Holocaust. And we had protested that at the midday ceremony and interviews following.
And what about you, Haim?
I couldn't actually partake in the Holocaust Memorial Day events because I was in hospital as part of my treatment, and I knew that beforehand. I probably wouldn't have gone to any of the official ones because I detest so much the use, like my friends here, detest the abuse of the memory of so many millions by politicians and others making use of it. But I did partake as a speaker with 3 others in another commemoration called Genocide Memorial Day. Dr. Ahmed, who is a British expert in treating burns at the beginning of the genocide, he moved to Gaza, where his family is from, and he moved to Gaza with his 2 daughters and his wife. I thought this was amazing, and what is more amazing is that they all survived. And he told us in half an hour what it was like not to be able to give people any help most of the time, because he didn't have not just medications and swabs and so on, he didn't have clean water, and he couldn't do anything for most of the people who were burnt by the Israeli bombs. So in a sense, this was a very interesting way of speaking about the Holocaust, because it was in context. It was in context with what is happening around us, with what is actually destroying the Palestinian people in a similar way that the Jews were destroyed. But the difference being that the Jews were the victims in the past and now they are the perpetrators. They didn't admit it to the patients. He spoke about it and we all cried. He said we had to have an area where people that we cannot help at all had to be kept. And, you know, some people pretended to help them, but there was nothing that they could do because they didn't have anything to give them to relieve their pain. They had just to die quietly. Each can hold their hand and not much more than that. I think this was even worse than some of the descriptions of the Holocaust during the Second World War.
And we should also remind people that, you know, this is a policy decision, right? Like the fact that he can't provide people with things, this is not some inevitability of war. This is because Israel refuses to let certain things in. Israel is not letting in anesthesia, so people are undergoing amputations without anesthesia. I mean, it's just the most barbaric, unnecessary, intentional suffering.
Now, Prime Minister in Britain, who happens to be the only human rights lawyer running a country, Keir Starmer, actually said, not once, not twice, and not three times, that Israel is right in what it is doing in Gaza and has a right to do it, including, starvation, withdrawal of water, electricity, medications, and so on.
I was at the same event, and I can second that the Palestinian doctor's presentation was overwhelming, moving presentation. And it's very true that despite the temporary ceasefire, because of those deprivations and lack of infrastructure for over 2 million people, the genocide is ongoing, despite of lack of fighting, because it will take many months to turn the ship round, even if it is allowed with the supplies and rebuilding. But there is no sign that it is being allowed. So further casualties by large numbers continuing as the ceasefire supposedly is holding or semi-holding.
I think I should mention something that the doctor has said, which really shocked us because we didn't know about it, and I think people elsewhere don't know about it. The United States and Britain each have contributed a field hospital, a modern field hospital, each to be built in Gaza, and they were built in Gaza. The hospital, each of them, cost few tens of millions of pounds. And in the American one, there were 60 doctors, and in the British one, something like 40 doctors and nurses. They never treated a single patient. From the beginning to the end, the British and the Americans donated the prefab hospital. Yeah, they built a hospital from prefabricated, expensive parts. There were no medications there. There were no beds there. There was no way of treating anyone. This was just a building, very expensive building, but they harmed Palestinians enormously because they actually advertised and got about 100 doctors to work in those two hospitals. No, they didn't do anything because there was nothing for them to do, but they were taken out of the count of, disappearing doctors in Gaza because so many of them died. So doctors believed they will be treating people, and they went to work there and got paid for it, but they didn't do the work. So this is how the US and UK help Israel to kill more people. Now, no one can argue that they didn't know what they're doing, making sure that those doctors are not treating patients. And this went on for more than 6 months.
I just would like to clarify. I didn't go to this Guildhall ceremony and also to the Radio Free concert recordings out of curiosity, because I wanted to see what it was like.
Right.
I keep going into the lions' dens.
Right.
And I do that repeatedly because it's easy to make speeches to people who agree with you. That's fun. You know, it's so nice. I want to know what the other side thinks, feels, and I want to put my arguments forward in the hope that who knows what.